Surface miner. This machine looks like it came from that one SpongeBob episode. Almost like a mining tank, slowly moving across the ground. Instead of relying on explosives, it uses a massive rotating drum underneath the machine to grind rock directly into smaller pieces as it moves forward. That drum is covered in cutting tools, constantly chipping away at the surface with steady, controlled force. Some of these machines are incredibly heavy, weighing over 100 tons, yet they're designed to cut through solid rock with surprising precision. Rather than blasting and breaking everything apart at once, the process is much more controlled and continuous. As it moves, it leaves behind a neatly cut surface and material that's already broken down and ready to be transported. At that point, it doesn't feel like traditional mining. It feels like the machine is slowly chewing its way through the earth. The meat grinder. Imagine seeing a giant spinning wheel the size of a room racing towards you on railroad tracks. At first glance, it looks less like a train and more like something built by a supervillain. That machine is called a rotary snowplow, and it exists for one reason: destroying snow. When winter buries railroad tracks under massive drifts, regular plows often cannot get the job done. So, railroads bring out this spinning monster. The giant wheel at the front spins at high speed, chewing through snowdrifts that can be taller than the train itself, and blasting the snow far away from the tracks. Some rotary snowplows are over 100 red years old, and are only used during the worst winter storms. The craziest part is that, despite looking like one of the most powerful trains ever built, most rotary snowplows cannot move on their own. They need locomotives behind them to push them into the snow. So, this terrifying machine that looks like a giant railroad meat grinder is really just a snowplow. Swamp excavator. This excavator looks like it's wearing giant inflatable water wings, but those wings are actually massive pontoons that let it float and work in places most machines would instantly sink. Instead of traditional tracks digging into the ground, this machine spreads its weight across a wide surface, allowing it to glide over soft mud, swamps, and shallow water. In terrain that could swallow a truck in seconds, it stays stable, almost like it's walking on water. What's really impressive is its versatility. It can dredge waterways, clear vegetation, and even build in areas where land and water blend together. The operator can maneuver it with surprising precision, despite its bulky and awkward appearance. It might not be the fastest or the sleekest machine out there, but it's perfectly engineered for one of the toughest environments on Earth, where solid ground doesn't really exist. Bertha TBM. Bertha was one of the largest tunnel boring machines ever built, designed to dig a massive highway tunnel beneath Seattle. On paper, it was a marvel of engineering, able to chew through Earth at an unprecedented scale. But almost immediately after starting, things went wrong. The machine overheated, damaged its cutting head, and then became stuck deep underground. Fixing it wasn't simple. You couldn't just pull it out. Crews had to dig a huge access pit just to reach and repair it, costing years of delays and massive budget overruns. Its sheer size made every problem harder, slower, and more expensive to solve. While Bertha eventually completed the tunnel, it became a perfect example of how extreme scale can backfire, turning what should have been efficient into a logistical nightmare. Sky crane. Imagine seeing a flying crane carrying an entire house over your city. Most people would think they were looking at some kind of experimental machine from the future, but the Sorsky S-64 Sky Crane has been doing exactly that for decades. At first glance, this helicopter looks completely unfinished. It has a tiny cockpit, giant landing legs, and almost no body at all. But that strange design was actually one of the smartest engineering decisions ever made in aviation. The Sky Crane was built for one purpose: lifting things that other helicopters simply could not handle. Instead of wasting weight on passenger space, engineers stripped the aircraft down to the bare minimum, so it could carry massive cargo underneath its frame. That made it perfect for moving construction equipment, power transformers, military vehicles, giant trees, and even entire houses through the air. One of the craziest things about the Sky Crane is how precise it can be while carrying insane amounts of weight. Pilots can carefully lower huge cargo onto mountaintops, deep forests, or crowded construction sites with incredible accuracy. It became especially useful in places where roads were impossible to build, or disasters made normal transportation useless. The helicopter also became famous for fighting wildfires. Special firefighting versions can carry thousands of gallons of water and dump it directly onto massive fires in seconds. Watching one fly overhead feels less like seeing a helicopter and more like watching a giant mechanical insect built to carry the impossible. Even though it first flew in the 1960s, the sky crane is still used today because very few machines can do what it does. It might look weird, ugly, or even unfinished, but that strange design turned it into one of the greatest heavy-lifting aircraft ever created. Bagger 293. The Bagger 293 bucket wheel excavator is the largest land vehicle ever built by mass. Built by the German company Tackraft in 1995 for the Hambach open pit coal mine in western Germany, this machine weighs 14,200 metric tons, heavier than the Eiffel Tower, and stretches 740 feet from end to end, longer than 2 football fields laid end to end. And it moves with the slow, inexorable patience of something that knows nothing can stop it. It requires a crew of 5 to operate, and takes about 20 minutes just to turn around. At its heart is a rotating wheel, 70 feet in diameter, studded with 18 buckets, each capable of scooping out 530 cubic feet of earth in a single bite. Over the course of a day, the Bagger 293 can excavate 240,000 cubic meters of overburden, enough to fill roughly 96 Olympic swimming pools. The machine doesn't just mine, it reshapes geography. Forest harvester. This machine doesn't just cut trees, it snatches them. At the front, there's a powerful cutting head that clamps onto a tree like a mechanical hand. Once it has a firm grip, it slices clean through the base and holds the entire trunk in place instead of letting it fall. From there, it can move, position, and stack the tree exactly where it needs to go, all in one motion. What makes it even more efficient is that it doesn't stop at one. It can grab, cut, and collect multiple trees in quick succession, doing in seconds what used to take entire crews much longer to finish. Everything is controlled with precision, so instead of chaotic falling timber, the process looks controlled and almost calculated. When you watch it work continuously, it stops feeling like simple logging and starts to look more like a system methodically clearing everything in its path. Sinking ship. No, this ship is not actually sinking. It was designed to do this. The RP Flip might be the weirdest ship ever created. When it leaves port, it looks like a normal vessel, but once it reaches its research area, it begins taking in seawater through ballast tanks. Over the next several minutes, the entire vessel slowly rotates until it is standing almost straight up in the ocean. Nearly 90% of the ship ends up underwater, leaving only a small portion visible above the surface. This unusual position makes it incredibly stable, which is perfect for scientists studying waves, underwater acoustics, and ocean conditions. To anyone seeing it for the first time, it looks like a ship in serious trouble. In reality, it is doing exactly what its designers intended. The Batmobile. The Sea Shadow 9529 was a classified U.S. Navy experiment designed to disappear from radar. Developed during the 1980s at the height of the Cold War, it was created to answer a simple but ambitious question. If stealth technology could hide aircraft from enemy radar, could it hide ships too? At first glance, the Sea Shadow looked less like a naval vessel and more like something from a science fiction movie. Its sharp, angular surfaces were designed to scatter radar waves away from their source, making the ship appear much smaller or sometimes invisible to radar systems. But the strange shape was only part of the story. Instead of sitting on a traditional hull, the vessel was mounted on a pair of submerged pontoons hidden beneath the water. This gave it stability while keeping its radar signature as low as possible. And because the project was highly classified, secrecy surrounded almost every aspect of its existence. When the ship needed to move between locations, it was often transported inside a massive floating barge, so that curious eyes couldn't study its unusual design. For years, many people had no idea it even existed. The Sea Shadow wasn't built to fight wars or patrol oceans. Its real mission was to act as a floating laboratory. Engineers used it to test how shape, materials, and structural design could work together to make a warship dramatically harder to detect. Every test helped answer questions that had never been explored before. The results were surprisingly successful. Radar systems had a much harder time detecting the vessel than conventional ships of similar size, proving that naval stealth wasn't just a theory. It could actually work.